Leah, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, pal.
Awesome. So I think maybe just right off the bat, one of the questions that I usually have as an entrepreneur myself is, what do you think is one of the greatest challenges that female entrepreneurs face?
I'm going to sound a bit controversial because I really believe that we undersell women.
Okay.
And we always want to give create a perception that they're not really doing as well as they should be.
Okay.
I think they have just made sacrifices around business because, you know, as a woman, you need to make choices. Are you going to be pursuing a career? Are you going to be pursuing a business?
Yes.
Or are you going to be pursuing being a mother or, you know, a homekeeper and so on? So it's because of the choices that women make that determines whether or not they're going to really do exceedingly well. So I don't necessarily think it's challenges per se. I think it's about making the right choices and creating the right balance as a woman, whether you are in business or whether you are a career woman.
Yeah. And speaking of balance, what is the right balance exactly? Because some people would say 50% business, 50% of your time goes to home. Is that accurate?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I don't think there's a right formula to a balance. I think a balance would be an area where you are able to, you know, give sufficient time.
Yeah.
And sufficient is also subjective. It could be that you want to be involved with, you know, doing homework and cooking and, you know, creating a home, or you want your employees to also have, you know, stable salaries and so on.
Yeah.
You want your business to be profitable. So the balance is about getting to a place where you have structured your life such that you are able to see your kids and they understand that this is the time that you're making, you know, you're sacrificing to your business, because it's always about the choice. With every choice, there's something that you're compromising in the process. So it's spending sufficient time such that you understand what's going on with your family life, with your kids and so on, but also spending sufficient time such that the business does not suffer. I don't think it's really about competition between men and women, and I always never encourage us to be at the place where we want to say 50-50 between men and women, or there should not be a competition. Everybody has a role that they need to play. Everybody has a purpose that must be served, and it's not determined by whether or not you're a woman, because there's women that are doing exceedingly well, and it's because of the choices that they made. There's men who are not doing well, and it's simply about choices.
So true. So you spoke about 50-50, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, do you think that there is you know, so much pressure more on women than there is on men in terms of succeeding, and maybe also putting on a facade, right? Because you are in the business space as a woman, you now need to act a particular way, maybe act more masculine than you are feminine. Do you think there's more pressure in that? And I mean, what are your thoughts around that?
I think perhaps at some stage, because I don't think people would speak about women being under pressure out of nowhere. I think women have come a long way to be where they are today. I think government has played a role in creating that conducive environment for women to really do well. I think society has also they now have a position around women. I mean, like you listen to how we talk about campaigns where we say, you know, it's enough, you know, women must be treated well. We've been having a lot of femicide now with men bashing women and so on, but women are also now doing that in retaliation. And I think it's about the strength of women that we need to focus on. I think it's about, I don't necessarily think women should change and act like men for them to be respected, because I think society is now accepting the fact that you can be soft, but you can still be accessible, but still be firm and be feminine at the same time. So I think it's about time that we don't want to lose ourselves as women, you know, just to satisfy anybody else. Like I said at the beginning, it's about choices that women make, and about the groups that we surround ourselves with that will determine whether we really make it or not.
You know, you spoke about government and how government supports or is trying to support women in terms of them being productive in the entrepreneurship space and whatever leadership position they may be in. In entrepreneurship specifically, we have incentives where if a business, for example, is owned by 51% owned by a female, there's certain perks to that. Do you think those kind of systems and those things have been effective, or what are your thoughts?
They have been effective. I mean, the recent research that we did around who's running businesses, we've been hosting this campaign called Pitching Booster. And 53% are still male dominated, but women businesses, you now see 47% of businesses being run by women, which is a big shift. At some point, I think it was a 70-30, where 70% were male owned businesses against the 30%. And I think it's, that whole landscape is changing. What we always encourage is for women not to allow themselves to be used as just a 50-50, just so, or 51% owner, just so some guy can get that benefit.
And usually the women are not even active.
They're not even active. It's just a name that is passed on so that they can start qualifying for some of these incentives. But we are seeing it change. I mean, the level of confidence that we are seeing at these pitching booster campaigns, the level of businesses that are doing well, which are women owned, it's amazing how it has transformed. And we continue to encourage women owned businesses to get more support, such that there's designated and set aside that we just put for women owned businesses as well as youth owned businesses. So government continues to support women in business.
Oh, that's amazing. With these pitching boosters, do you guys offer any kind of support, maybe training these entrepreneurs, both male and female, in pitching? Is there something that you guys do prior to the pitching or post these events?
Yeah, so the Pitching Booster is a 2-day campaign.
Okay.
So where we spend the first day just dealing with training and elevator pitching booster training, as well as the business model canvas, because this is where it all starts. A lot of people come with just ideas or talents, but they don't necessarily follow a structured way of putting together a business plan. So we start with those. So they get sufficient time to rehearse, to be trained, to be criticized. So day one is always interesting because people are just panicking. They're just a wreck. But on day 2, this is when they do the actual pitching, where we then select the winners. So for both male and women, we do not treat women specially, special or whatever. We just treat everybody the same.
Just thinking back from my own experiences and experiences of other females that are entrepreneurs, I just want to ask this question, and at the risk of being controversial, right? Do you think that culture, especially being here in Africa, right? Do you think culture plays a big role in the confidence of women in the business space in terms of their performance?
It's not only women that suffer from low self-esteem or who are not confident. We find a lot of young boys as well going through the same, where they just either shake and end up not being able to pitch at all. So for me, it's not about, I think for any black child or anybody who grew up in the townships, the level of confidence is not at the level where you can compare it to people who are always, who got a better start in life. And so we're finding it's the same between male and female. Where the culture plays a role, I don't necessarily think so. I think there's sufficient literature now to show women that it's not about where you come from. I think we are all at a place where that looking down does not necessarily mean you are respectful. Some people look at that as being deceitful and so on. So it's not, I don't think it plays any role anymore. If it still does, then there's still a lot of work that we need to do. But I think it's from families, homes must start playing a role where they bring up their girl child such that they are very, very confident and not believe that because they are Venda or Sotho or whatever, it makes them different from anyone else.
So, there's a research project that I did with the Netherlands Embassy a while ago, 2 years ago. And one of the issues that entrepreneurs did bring up was that I don't want to say complain, but one of the challenges that they said was access to information. Because just because I have a smartphone and I'm somewhere in the rural areas and I want to get into entrepreneurship, right? I wouldn't necessarily know how to Google or search for something that I've never really heard of. How do you think maybe that could be solved? Well, maybe not entirely, but how do you think we can
If
start?
it's access to information, we've got Tuso houses. I know local municipalities have what they call Tuso houses. This is where municipalities have shared spaces where you'll find either province and all sorts of home affairs and whatever available in one central space. That's what they can use to access information. But I also think that we sometimes put too much pressure on the outside. The reality is we don't have all the answers. I might be working for the enterprise Propellor, we might be in government. The answers lie with the young people that requires the service, because they know what their challenges are. We can only create a conducive environment, and I think it's about time where we start changing how we do things. It should not be about government going out and just sharing information, because we're not even entrepreneurs ourselves. But it's about entrepreneurs coming to government and saying, well, these are our challenges and these are the recommendations that we have.
Yeah.
And from a policy point of view, as government, we can then look at how we can either amend some of our policies so that we are able to better provide support to the young people. So I think it's about time we changed how we really view enterprise development and support.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your insights. And I think maybe in closing, if you can just give us, show some love to young entrepreneurs that are watching you at home today, specifically those that are female, what would be your message of encouragement to them?
It's possible.
Yes.
Anybody can do it. You don't need permission from anyone else to do it.
Yes.
It's about anything that comes naturally to you. Never fear what people are going to say, whether you think the idea will work or not. All the ideas that have worked were people who just thought of something and they really did not just sit back and wish it would work. They actually did something about it to make it work.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Pal.
Awesome.